to the flag
of
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. We're going to have our public input statement from the vice chair.
The first public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes to make a statement. But a second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting if allowed by the board chair. Each speaker will give his or her name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input. We as a community pledge to treat each other as we wish to be treated, pledge to seek understanding where there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect. This is a time for comments and/or questions for the board, but please be aware that questions may not be able to be answered at this meeting.
Thank you. Did you hear that?
Keep it on while you're speaking, Nancy.
Okay, next we're going to go to the minutes of December 5th.
Is there no public input?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Just had it down there. Never mind. So now we'd like to do public input. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? I knew that.
Way ahead of us.
Okay. All right, minutes of December 5th. Any corrections or anything anybody saw?
Sent to add to a sentence that should be added.
Yep, I'm working on that. And Jerry reached out to me earlier and I adjusted that piece of it as well. So I'm hopeful that we're good.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 5th.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed or abstained? Okay, now we're going to go to the November financial summary.
That's below.
Yeah.
So you should have received the November summary with the agenda. One of the things I guess I wanted to address, the last time we spoke about the finances, Peggy had asked a question about utilities and electricity in particular. And so I did a high level look at some of the utilities, and to date, we have spent for water and sewer about 30% of our budget, which is a good place. Snow and trash removal is 23%, but that makes sense because
We're not there yet.
removal and the budget for moving it is still to be used. Telephone expenses, we've used about 40%. Similarly, electric, 40%. That was through November 20th was the last bill we paid on that. Heating oil, 23%. Again, we haven't hit peak usage yet. The one thing I did want to share is that a week ago, we received an email indicating that our electricity delivery costs would be going up approximately 15% starting January 1st. I think we've reached back out to them. They said if we wanted to know how it would affect us specifically to reach out. So we don't have that information back yet. But I am hopeful, given that we've spent 40% of our budget through November 20, that the electric, that we've budgeted enough, and that some of the energy savings that we've put into place, the automatic light dimmers in the buildings and things like that, we're starting to see maybe some of the effects. So a little bit less energy usage, the increased budget to reflect some of these, increases from CMP that we get notified of. And then, I'm hopeful that we're gonna kind of keep pace with it over this budget season, but it's shocking to me that they tell us, oh, by the way, in a week.
Something's wrong.
Ally,
I just have a question. I know as like a resident, we're able to buy into the solar fields and you get a 15% discount on your electricity bill. Can we do that as a school district or no? Or do we already?
we did that a couple of years ago. We entered into a contract with a company to do just that. And what happened is similar, I think, to something one of the legislators alluded to. They were paying nothing, the people building these things were paying no taxes. And when they changed the rules, it was before we actually were tied to a finished project. So what happened is the builders canceled it, the project went away, and so did our contract. Like we didn't get in. And then it became too expensive for some of these folks to build these solar farms, and they stopped.
I'm still getting I still get a notification as a resident of Berwick to buy in.
We are bought in.
Right. I can't believe I haven't yet. It's literally just because I haven't had time. But I feel like we should revisit that if it's going to be an increase.
They'll save us 15%.
Say no, if
Well,
it's raising
it's one of those things, it's, you have to buy in, but you have to buy in to a specific location.
Yeah.
And it has to be up and running. Our issue was that it never got up and running. So we can certainly put that on the list of things to look into, but I don't think it's as simple as a household.
Yeah.
Just
because of the amount of,
the guy who walks up and says, hey, do you want to buy in? And we say, yes. And they go, great, here you go. It's a little different, but we can certainly put that on the list, Ally, of things we can look into again.
So they put you with the one that's close to you? How do they do this?
Not really. The one we signed on for was outside of Augusta, actually. And it was it Revision Energy? And they had a bunch of sites throughout the state, and this was the one that was closest to being done. And I think they were trying to get it in before, and due to some changes in the law, due to staffing and inability to get materials, things got held up. It kind of just blew.
Because it's a ginormous one, and I think that's almost done, beside that new Poland Springs plant I think it's in Hollis. It's huge. I've never seen so many
A lot of them
So I don't
already
know.
have people in the queue
that are to be on
that
there.
are tied to that. Like it's almost like you buy your spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
You must be such a big
So
customer that.
you have to be able to find a place that that's big enough, because we have lots of buildings and lots of users. But we can put that on the list and try to reach out and see if there's anything that's appropriate for the district.
Sue can hear. Years ago, we looked at putting panels on our roofs of some of the schools. Will we ever do that? Do we have solar panels? No, we're talking about.
I think when Dave Saltmarsh was here,
Yeah,
that many years ago,
yeah, that many years ago.
students built some, and I think those maybe went to the Knowlton School, if I remember.
Yes.
And I want to say there were some here in North Berwick somewhere. I don't remember what building.
MHA actually has one.
Okay, yeah.
But that's it.
That's it.
So what percentage of the electricity that we budgeted for, where are you at with that? Where are we at with that?
So we have spent 40% of our budget through November 20th. So that's, again, that's 5 out of 7 months. So is that 58% left? So we have 60% of our budget left, and we have 58% of the year left. So
And a 15% increase in the
Well,
supply cost comes.
it increases on the delivery side, so it's not on all of the dollars. It's only on the delivery side of the dollars. So again, once we get some information about what that rate really means, I will bring that back and we can talk about that a little.
Is the cost of oil going to be lower for the school or did we lock in before?
So we locked in, and I'm pressed at this very second to tell you what that price was. Let me see.
That's okay.
Look it up. But we do lock in when we can because it helps us
Right,
with our
yeah.
budget. If we were to not lock in, and some years we haven't, simply because the prices weren't low enough, in my opinion, right? Like they just weren't low enough. So, but most years we lock in so we know. And this year, I want to say we locked in somewhere around 2.59 a gallon. And we generally have assistance from P. Gagnon and Son in South Berwick. And Mark Gagnon has, been on my short list for years. He recently retired. The company was sold. And I'm working with a new person over there. They've still got the same office staff, the things are similar. The last time I spoke to her, which was probably a month ago, maybe 6 weeks, we were looking at $2.99 a gallon. So 40 cents a gallon more. She said she understood, I explained to her, I said, wow, that's, really much, much more than we had locked in. And she said she is doing what she can to try to find us a good spot. So what I do is, starting in the fall, I check in, and sometimes when it's not a direct correlation, but it's my kind of take on it. When gasoline prices go really low, that's when I reach out.
Right.
And that's when a lot of these oil prices for us, because we're projecting out a year, right? Like it's not what we're going to do this winter, it's for a year from now. And that seems to be when we find lower prices.
Right.
It doesn't mean every year we can go down or stay the same, but we try.
Awesome. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other
Any more good
questions?
news I can? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Thanks, Denise.
Okay, we have some policy first readings.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me in the audience? Like, no? Okay. Is that better? Okay, thank you.
You're outside.
My outside voice? Okay. All right, thank you. So you had two policy readings, the ACAA harassment and sexual harassment of students, and then ACAA-R. So what we typically do is that we bring, the current policies to the board just so that you can review. So when the policy committee meets and goes through the policies and make changes, you're familiar with the original policy. So like there's no action needed tonight because these are our current policies and we just wanted to talk through how, what that process is. These two policies that we're bringing forward, when we bring forward, they're very legally based. So there's not a lot of changes that we're going to be able to make. And some other policies there will be, because this is so legally bound. We really, we're going through it and we're looking at it just to see what the changes are and the shifts are. And we will highlight those and share those at an upcoming meeting. Any questions just on that process? Okay, thank you.
So this is just for us to read
Yes.
and become familiar with.
Can I just add to it? Because what we talked about is it's really 3 readings, right? Just so for clarity for everybody, because there's a question that I had is the one is the current policy, right? For our information. When it comes from policy committee with the revisions, we're going to bring it to the whole board. And we talked about, we're hopeful that we can show the changes, whether strike throughs and italics or however way, but we're going to try to show that so that everyone can see the proposed changes. And that would be first reading, right? And then you have a period of time for us to read, think about it, do it, and then we come back and get approved the second time. So actually, we talk about the policy up to 3 times is to what do, and if we need to do more, but it's around 3 times. The old one, first reading of the new one, and then the second reading. And
A first draft, second draft.
Mhm.
Right. So that's it for policy.
Yes.
Okay. Number 6, January meeting dates.
I just wanted to check in with the board. Our next meeting is January 2nd, and that's the Thursday that we return from school. So we're just making a proposal that we meet on the 16th instead of the 2nd, that we just omit that first meeting in January and stick to our routine of the third meeting, which would be on the 16th. So just wanted some feedback on that and to see if everybody would be amenable to that.
I am assuming budget talks have begun.
At the
And
building level, at the
at the-
school levels
right,
and at the
right. So
central
when-
office.
I'm sure you'll give us this schedule, you usually do. but
Sure.
When do you think the first time we'll be able to see a budget would be?
I'd have to look at the timeline.
I mean, I just
Yes.
wondering if that'll
It-
affect
it
that
won't-
meeting.
It doesn't affect that meeting,
Okay.
no.
Nancy, you should have your mic on. I know you don't want to, but you,
I forget.
Well,
I'm good with that. Works for me. Holiday recovery.
We have to make a motion to move it?
If it helps, we didn't have our, budget workshop until Saturday, March 2nd last year, as far as
Correct.
timelines.
So that's about the trajectory.
I'll be remote all of January, so I love that we will not have that meeting.
Do we have?
So it
a
would
motion
probably
on
be
that
helpful to
stuff?
have a
Yeah.
motion to
So move.
take that off.
Move the first meeting in January to January 16th instead of the 2nd.
essentially, aren't we just canceling the January 2nd meeting?
Yeah, you can.
You can just say that. Yes.
Do you need to amend your?
Yeah, we're canceling the first meeting.
Second,
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay. All right, employment.
We don't have any employment information to share for hires or retirements or resignations at this time.
Awesome. Good. And superintendent update.
Sure, just a few things. Our newsletter is going out Sunday, so that's going to be chock full of information. Just because so much has been going on in the district, just leading up to December break. So that will be good. We will be sharing information about the grant that we received for preschool to put that out there. And then we will start the new year with the survey to families. So we can start collecting information and then start reaching out to the local preschools and daycare centers just to start those discussions. So that's on the horizon for that. We received a letter, North Berwick, the town of North Berwick sent a letter to the school showing appreciation for voting day and made a comment that the residents really appreciated seeing the students' artwork in the school and that people noted that a lot of students did accompany their parents to voting and that was really good to see that student engagement at that point, even at the youngest of levels. And just also recognizing that it is hard to have a remote, but that they very much appreciated the school accommodating that so that voting could occur. So that's North Berwick.
Nice.
It is. And then I just want to give a big shout out to our payroll department for the next 3 years. At this time of year, payroll, like the payday hits Friday, so it will hit next Friday. So they are working all weekend and Monday to make sure that payroll gets done for our staff. And I just want to give a big shout out to that because they are even, even Christmas Eve day, if needed, they're going to be completing some work. So I just want to give a shout out to our department who
Said-
very willingly.
Just because of where Christmas falls
Yes,
and we're not.
and
in
it's the
school
three-
next
next 3 years.
Yes.
So
We do
just-
appreciate that.
Yes,
They put in a lot of extra hours.
They do.
as well, so
they do.
That's good. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, next we have other. Do you have any other?
Hi, I have a question. So I know when we were talking to Mike Archibald in the middle school, he's looking for funding for the locker room, so they'll be able to have things like a football team and things like that. So I went and kind of just like took a little look at different sporting companies in the area and what grants they offer and sponsorships for towns. And Dick's Sporting Goods offers up to $250,000 in sponsorships for schools. And it has to be a school where like the community has some involvement with that store. And I know ours does very much. So I was curious about like, if we find opportunities like that as members of the board, who do we pass that along to? Are we able to put in our name for it? Like, how does that work?
Do you mean as far as when you say putting your name into it, do you mean like writing it? Or do you mean like just making it known that something's out there?
Making it known something's out there,
Sure.
writing it, whatever is helpful
Sure.
to the district.
Well, I think if you let us know or let Denise know, and then we can, right group, like we can do some first looks at it to make sure that it meets some of the criteria that we would need to follow, and then we can pass that on.
Okay.
But it's always good to have that information.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Playground.
Harold Alphon grant that paid for $100,000 that I found for.
Wow.
There's so many
Go on.
millionaires out there, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, my other thing is, and I don't want to like lose anyone's confidence, but a few members of the lunch staff in certain of the schools have just kind of mentioned that they don't necessarily feel as ingrained in the community as like, you know, teachers and staff and things like that. So I wanted to maybe float the idea around of some type of appreciation event for the lunch staff. That's all I got.
And the other thing is that we do have David Vargas coming on and starting as our school nutrition director in January. So, you know, that's something good to just kind of flag for him as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Also kind of to piggyback off that, I think we all got an email on the breakfast for
Yeah.
community employers, which from last year, I think was, what I heard at least, was a big success. So I think that would be nice, you know, some of us could attend that.
I'll put it on my calendar.
You had to RSVP, you had to click on something on the email, so.
Is that the same, it is the same? Okay, so that was great. Yes.
It was a really productive time.
And if you have other businesses that are in the area, local folks that you would like to invite, just let us know who they are, and feel free to send the invite out, but just let us know so we can know about RSVPs.
Thank you. Anybody else have another?
Is there any update on the C. Menard email that the board received?
That's gone through the appropriate steps and was at the superintendent's level, and that's confidential. We cannot discuss that, you know,
I'm
here.
not discussing the specifics. I know that she received, according to her email to the board, she received a response from the superintendent. So I just didn't know.
I responded to her and I think Audra did too.
Okay.
I
just wanted to
think
make sure that we-
it's okay, Josh, I think it's okay for us to let you know that we met with the family, with the parent, and I think we had a good resolution.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were following up because,
Yep.
I mean, as a typical habit, when it's sent to the whole board, as a chair, you're our spokesperson, just knowing that it's actually been reached out and taken care of, thank you, that brings me some relief.
Anybody else?
I know what I meant to bring up earlier. I'm sorry. We approved funding for 3 additional staff at the middle school to deal with behavioral issues for this year. And I'm wondering if we could get Mike to come in and give us an update on how that's going and where he is seeing improvements.
Sure. So 2 of those positions were to help with like behavior. The other one was to really help with, you know, just supporting teacher, like a coaching model for teachers in classrooms. So we're collecting data on all of those positions, but yes, he can come in prior to, I was going to have him come in at budget time, but we can certainly have him come in earlier. We are talking a little bit through some of that. It's still early stages, but the Code of Conduct Committee is also going to be starting to work through some of that. But we can have him come in and talk about the differences that he's seen and the data that he's seen between last year and this year at this time, or when he comes in.
Great, thank you.
So glad you asked about that. Could we also just, as you're thinking about that, because as we mentioned earlier, we closed the online program and we knew that those specific students were going to be impacted, and we were hoping that adding the staff. So I know we can't talk about them specifically, but that just, are they being successful? Has the transition gone well? What obstacles have we hit? Like, because that was one of the major things that we talked about. And so I want to make sure that we're following up on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good call.
Anybody else? Other. Okay, we have our last public input session. Do we have any public input?
It's on, yeah.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Can you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
It is.
Chelsea, North Berwick. I would like the board to relook at their policy for handing out written, like, disciplinary stuff from like school and not communicating it with parents. There was an incident at my daughter's school involving my daughter on Tuesday. It led her, another kid ran by her and it kind of just spooked her, which she let out a scream. Obviously, somebody spooked her, she's gonna scream. It also led to her getting written up because she screamed. There was no phone call home. There was no email and no communication. I called the assistant principal at 2:57 p.m. on Wednesday. She informed me that the incident had happened the previous day. So now we're at 24 hours of not hearing from a school. I also told after, why didn't a parent get a phone call? She had said that that's just not really what they do, that they handle it and then it moves on. If my kid fully screamed or if she ever did something wrong, the discipline does not stop at the school. Like, it comes home too. So I feel like the school shouldn't really be overstepping that boundary, whether they inform a parent or not. So I would just ask the board that really look into your policy, either fix it or add it, that when a student is written up for whatever, they sneeze the wrong way, a parent should be notified that their student is getting written up.
Thank you. Any other speakers tonight? So we now need to,
I'll make a motion.
enter into our two executive sessions.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session. MRSA 4056, labor contract negotiations teacher.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay,
All right. And there won't be any further business after this meeting, so we're all set after this. Thank you for coming.
thank you.
I went to the